Them man there. Ain't nothing like them man there. My man, I stand up, give them man chairs. Them man there.
Welcome to another episode of For the Culture TV. It's your boy Jason Barrett. The big bro RB's not here today. I think he's dancing on ice or something like that. But nonetheless, the show must go on. And today we are in the presence of royalty. Trust me, I'm so excited about this interview. I saw this gentleman, this brother, do an amazing breakdown of the Black Panther film, and I was just engaged. I started researching, where can I find out more? How can I hear more about him? And I'm so honored that he has graced us with his presence and has agreed to come through and do an interview. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, brother Andrew Muhammad
Always
in
respect,
the building,
man.
in the building.
Always love. Couldn't wait to be here, man.
Oh, I'm so glad, brother. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming down.
Always.
Really, really appreciate it. And I want to just get straight into it, my brother. I know you do so much in the community. You do some amazing work. But I got introduced to you from doing the whole Investigator thing.
Yeah.
I saw the Black Panther breakdown, and believe me, my mind was blown. Believe me, I sort of sat there and I'm thinking, yo, when you was just hitting us with the facts and stuff, how did that all start about? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Great.
What's going on?
It's all good, my big brother. But basically, how it started, well, there's 3 levels to the work that I do. Okay. About 90% of the work that I do is actually in schools. Okay. We run a program working in schools all over the UK.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get offers to go and work in Europe and whatever, okay. And that's basically, could be summed up in 3 words. Okay, we call it the SIM, okay? Like, you got a SIM card, your SIM, your SIM card, the phone is not activated until you put your SIM card inside it.
All right.
Okay, so we want to know what can activate this next generation. I call that the Neo generation, the school generation, they're leaders. Yeah. And so we have our own SIM, which is success, identity, and motivation. And so we believe if we connect that in terms of the youth, they're going to be going all over. You know what I mean? They're going to be raising that Neo generation. And outside of that, we have what we call the Investigator work in the community, which is basically doing events in town halls or culture centres, youth centres, whatever you can. And what we try to do, we use film as a medium to teach deep symbolic truths. Right. It's like a world of mythology in the film world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we use that kind of technique, and it works. You know, we work with the parents, we work with the youth on the street, we work with church, mosque, doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. We try to activate them without literally trying to tell them what to do, but showing it via films and breakdowns. And outside of that, is the weekend work, whereby we've actually opened up a Saturday academy. We don't call it a school, we call it an academy. It's an academy of leadership. Right. And so we work with mainly young black boys between the ages of 8 to about 16 years old, and we teach them life skills, leadership traits, and various things that make sure that they can actually use that information they're learning in schools, but in a way that could be active, you know, on a daily basis. And we want to create that revolution we call the Guan Papa G revolution. Yeah, my parents are from the Caribbean, Jamaica. Okay. And when we say Guan, you know, it just, as you said, the culture show, you know, when we say Guan, it just means go, be the best, reach the top. And the Papa G is the PAPAG, which stands for positive attitude produces awesome greatness. Wow. And we personally believe it's that attitude that's within all of us, which is a form of vibrations, okay? And then when you got that positive vibrations emanating from you, then you go on to produce the greatness that's inside of you.
Now, like, there's so much just in that opening conversation there. But I saw something recently. I think it was Jay-Z. I was looking at something on Insta, and there was a little clip, and Jay-Z was basically saying that all human beings have got genius inside them.
100.
All human beings.
100.
And it's just about being able to unlock that genius that's inside of each human being. I wasn't sure if I agreed.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I've always thought kind of like there are leaders and there are followers. Yes. That's how I've always felt in life, that there are leaders and there are followers, and that genius is the select few.
Okay.
It's the select few.
I'm feeling
but then when he said that, it kind of made me think, is it the select few that find their genius?
Exactly.
Or is it the select few that have genius?
Yes. 100%. I come from the school that genius is inborn. Okay. Yeah, it's something that's there. And, you know, looking at the word genius is similar to looking at the word education, because the word education comes from the Latin educare, literally means that which is educed from inside and brought outside.
Right.
Yeah. So everyone has a form of education, but it's a process of bringing out that inborn skill that's within yourself. And the same thing with the word genius. You know, we all have our own geniuses. We all have our own genius. Look at the word genius. Gene, I, us. Yeah, it's I and all of us that have that genetics. So the word genius is rooted in the word genetics.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
definitely something that is inborn. And some people in life have the ability or the environment that brings out that genius, whilst others may not have that ability or may not have be in the right environment that brings out that genius. But every single one of us, I personally believe, have that genius trait. It's just bringing it out.
Being able to bring it out. No, listen, I'm an open-minded person. When the facts change, I change my mind, you know. And so, like I said, looking at when Jigga said that, I thought about it. But listening to what you've just said there now definitely puts me into that framework to think that maybe that is the case. So, Brother Andrew, what's going wrong then? You know, lately we've seen in our young people, young black boys in particular. There's been, you know, stabbings and it's getting to the point now where it feels like there's an epidemic. It feels like we're at fever pitch. Now, I definitely feel that there is a correlation between under or miseducation and violence. Under and miseducation and the spate of stabbings and so on
100%.
we're actually seeing. You as an educator, what do you feel like the answers? I mean, it's a heavy question, so what's the answers? But
the answers are in layered form, to be honest with you, Jason. Basically, when we look at the stabbings and the shootings or the violence that we see today, we must appreciate the one basic fact. These young people never made themselves.
Right.
They are made
within
society. So if anyone's to blame, I don't really go down the line of blaming those young ones. Something has produced those young ones to think and act like that. And so therefore, when we see the stabbings, we're looking at the effect, not the cause. And I think if we're going to look at the cause, it's a bit more deeper. We've got to look at something which is going to be an historical trait, especially when it comes to the black boys and the young girls that are misled. And we have to go back to the history of how we ended up in the Western Hemisphere, you know, because those things have a knock-on effect down the line. And so therefore, the slavery, the Holocaust, the Black Holocaust that took place, we are now feeling the effects. We had a whole generation. You've got to remember, for 300 years, it was banned, illegal for black people to even just read, to write. So now we're saying, why don't you get an education? We've had this history of whereby education was seen to be put at the back forefront or back front of our priorities. Is about working hard. You know what I'm trying to say? So now we've got inequality right across the board in education, in housing, in a whole range of things that which basically a person needs are required. And so when we look at the situation of young black boys and girls, it is an historical thing that we have to correct first. And a part of that is what we call reparations. Not necessarily asking for money, but we need to repair the damage, the historical damage that has been done to our youth and to their parents, in truth.
So, all right. So I always say, I'm going to play heaven's advocate here. And what do you say then to the people that will say, look, man, that happened way back.
Way back, yes.
You know, that happened all the way back then. We're dealing with now. Things have changed. It's not like that anymore. How are you going to say that something that happened 300-400 years ago is affecting, you know, the kids in Lewisham today, the kids in Peckham today, the kids in Tottenham today?
Well, I'll say to that person that may say that, and I can understand the ideology behind that kind of question, is that anytime you go to the dentist, you've got a tooth problem. The dentist is not necessarily interested in the tooth problem today and the state that it's in today. He's going to ask you questions based on its history.
Right.
Have your parents had a history of decaying teeth? You know, what's your diet been like in the past? History is always fundamental. Doesn't mean that you stay in history, but you have to research the history to find out what's wrong today. If you're going to buy a house, one of the first thing they want to do, they want to get the house surveyed. They want to know the history of the house. When was it built? You know what I mean? Has it had problems with its roof or its brickwork or whatever? History is always fundamental. And so if we're going to deal with this situation with our youth and the stabbings, we have to start with history. We don't stay in history, and it's not the blame game, but we need to understand the psychology behind what's happened to these young people today, because as I said, they didn't make themselves, they were a product of what's been happening historically to them.
Right.
And so we start off with history.
Yes.
Yeah? And from there we can try to work out, okay, how do we solve this problem now?
Yeah.
You know, and it deals with that. It's not about just about the police.
Yes.
And the policing tactics. It goes into housing, education, equal opportunities, all those type of aspects that need to be dealt with.
I mean, you're going to get very few arguments with me on that. I do definitely believe, I mean, one of the definitions of history is it affects future events,
100.
yeah? And history happens in the present. You know, when Usain Bolt was breaking the world record, it said he's making history, yeah? And it was happening.
That's right.
And it was happening in the present. So history, you know,
exactly.
it affects past, present, and future. You mentioned the police there, and I'm wondering, there's been a historical lack of trust between the black community and the police.
Yeah.
In the society that we're in today, do you not feel that there has to be a coming together? The police are there and they're not going anywhere.
No.
And so there has to be a point where the
yes.
community and the police...
I agree with that 100%. Because the police are public servants.
Yeah.
They're there to serve the community. And I'm not one of those people, to be honest with you, that says, you know, if certain crime is taking place within our community, that there's no place for the police. We need strong law and order. I 100% believe in that, but it's got to be done equally and fairly.
Yeah.
That's the only point. But the police are a fundamental part of our society, and they are part of the solution, but not the solution. And they say it themselves.
Yeah. So what do you think because I think that part of the problem, so we had the issue with, you know, the Stephen Lawrence killing, and the McPherson report came out. The McPherson report categorically stated that the police, it was institutional racism. So this is part of the fabric of the police. Now, I personally believe one of the solutions that was put forward was a drive towards more ethnic minorities, African and Caribbean, Asian police officers being a part of the force. But generally speaking, when you find that those individuals get recruited into
That's right.
into the police, sometimes they can
become
actually
worse. So it's not the individual police officers that are really the problem, to be honest with you.
Right.
It's the ideology.
Right.
We have to retrain and replace that present ideology of much of the police force.
Yep.
Okay, because if anyone goes into the present ideology, they're going to do exactly the same historical things that the police have been doing against the community in many respects. It's the ideology, and they need to work with people like Tony Warner, like Robin Walker, people like Viva Moon, and various people within the community that can really assist the police in making sure that they have to check their ideology.
Yeah.
I personally have worked with the police many years ago in a training program in terms of making them understand us and our community and our values and how we portray ourselves and what have you, okay? And I'll be honest with you, it was one of the hardest training courses I've actually done because of the opposition of not those who were in charge. Those who were in charge understood.
Right.
And they worked with myself and one or two of us.
Okay.
They worked with us. But when we worked with the front line, they were very entrenched in their ideology, and that, you know, many of the black youth is just a threat.
Yes.
And that was it. They need to be, you know, dealt with on that level. But it's not understanding that, hold a minute, there's a buying clause that we have to have here.
Yeah. So I didn't realise you'd done some work with the police, and you know, that's a good thing, because what I often find with the government, the power structure, that they always reach into the black community, but instead of getting people like yourself that are educators, people like Robin Walker, what they tend to do is they draw for celebrities and athletes.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing against, I mean, I love our celebrities, I love our black celebrities, our black athletes, you know, our footballers, boxers, so on and so forth. But because you're able to punch someone in the face well in a ring, doesn't make you a community leader or a black leader. And I think one of the problems as well that I've always found is that you have a 19-year-old footballer that's making £100,000 a week and he crashes a Ferrari and everyone was like, oh, he's supposed to be a role model and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, he's 19 years old with 100 grand a week.
That's right.
That's what kids will do with that. So, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
we put this idea of being a role model on young people that have got no experience in life. So I suppose my question is, why do you think they're not reaching out to people like yourself, to people like Robin on a consistent basis that actually have an idea?
Yeah.
You got what I'm trying to say to you about the community? And
it's not even so much just an idea. We've got a track record of working within the community. We're not hard to find. You know, the community know about people like myself and, as you said, Robin Walker, Tony Warner, Dr. Les Henry, Twilight Bay. There's quite a few of us that have got a good track record of working with youth and their parents and just generations right across the board. But sad to say, there are many that don't really have the heart to solve this problem.
Right.
It just becomes a political hot potato. Many people financially benefit from this chaos that's on the street, you know, and we have a lot of organisations that come into the community, not a part of the community, come into the community, get all the grants, get all the money, sit around the big table, and basically that money is just shipped out again. And there's no change that takes place around our community. There's nothing to say that they were actually there, they were actually present. And so we must appreciate within the community, that is, that the problem lies within the community, but so does the solution. And we must be man or woman enough to say, you know what, let's do what it takes now to make this change. It's our children that are dying. It's our children that are fearful. We, you know, Jason, just to say that, you know, yesterday at my academy, we asked the question to a lot of the young people, the young youth, 8 to 16 years old, are you fearful of walking home? Are you fearful of walking down the street? And it amazed us that over 60% of our young people put their hands up and say they are literally living in fear, just coming home from school. Just on Wednesday alone, I had to meet 2 of my ex-students. We'd done mentor training with them in Northwest London. And they wanted to meet up with me after school. After college, sorry. And on their way just to meet me, to have just a coffee, and we're talking about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they were nearly stabbed twice. And for them, it was just a normal journey. It wasn't like they were shocked and screaming to me. They were, oh yeah, some boys just jumped off the bus, wanted to know what ends we're from, and they were ready to stab us if we said the wrong ends. But they took it. What surprised me is that they weren't surprised. It was a normal day for them. And it's got to that level now whereby something has to be done.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things there. For a start, this hits home because the director of For the Culture TV, Leon, his younger brother was stabbed. He actually made a film called That's Not Ours, based around that. So
that's how I got to meet him.
Okay, so this kind of rings true. It's a lot closer to home because of it's so close, if you get me. You know, watching it on the news sometimes, it does affect me and it does touch me, but you know when it's that close to home, I know him. I know he's a good youth. You know them ones there, you know, like, I know he's good. Because sometimes I think what starts to happen is you see some of these kids and, you know, their mum comes on the news and she's crying, oh, he was so good, and then they open up the Facebook page and he's standing in the guns and then all of a sudden you almost feel, they call it victim blaming. You almost feel like, well, you know, look at the kind of lifestyle that he was living and so on and so forth. But you said something really important, and I think that much like, you know, the Asian grooming gangs, they didn't want to identify them as Asian or Muslim or whatever because of the politics, the political correctness. Do you not think that we as the black community need to stand up and actually say the vast majority of this are our youths and we're the ones that need to address it?
100%. We can't play that political game. The more that we try to ignore that fact, and it's plain in everyone's eyes, is the more we're literally sentencing more of our youth to die on the streets.
I myself was stabbed not too long ago, sometime this year, at the beginning of April. While I was in the hospital, I was being discharged from the hospital, the nurse told me when I come out of there, I'm gonna stop carrying knives and to stop fighting. She told me no more carrying knives and stop fighting. I've never carried a knife, ever, and I've never been in a gang. So for her to tell me to stop carrying a knife and to stop fighting, it hurts, actually. It does hurt. It does hurt. For black boys, one size fits all. And whatever image is portrayed, that's how all of us are. That's how all of us.
I was watching a commentator, a right-wing commentator, a conservative commentator called Ben Shapiro, and he said that one of the problems that the black community have is a cultural problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's saying that this is part of our culture. Like violence is a part of our culture. He didn't use the word violence, but that's what he was alluding to.
I'm with you.
And at first I was kind of like, nah, man, nah. You know, I went on the defensive straight away. But when I start breaking it down and I do look at the culture and I look at some of the things that we rate. Yeah. The lyrics in the music that we rate. Yeah. The behavior in the dance hall.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are cultural things.
Yes.
Music is a part of culture.
Yes, 100.
The way that we talk. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's wicked.
Wicked.
Them,
Yes.
Those are cultural things.
Yes.
Yeah. You do something good. Yeah, I killed it, blood. You
I
talking
murdered
about?
it.
Murdered it, blood. Those are cultural things.
Yeah.
And so I have to then take a step back and say, actually, is the problem cultural?
But then we got to appreciate also, brother, to be honest with you, there's a hidden hand that pushes us, without us even seeing it, you know, that makes us think and talk a certain way. Let me give you a real life example of what I'm talking about. What you said was absolutely on point, brother. But we have to look at the hidden hand. I'm sure we all remember a great legend of a man called the Honourable Bob Marley, Bob Nestor Marley.
Come on,
yeah, we all.
seen there,
Oh,
seen
look
there.
at that! See, I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place. The Honourable Bob Nestor Marley, okay, and he created a revolution that we called reggae music, yeah. And that little island of Jamaica was affecting the whole world. And he produced lyrics that were uplifting. He produced lyrics that literally that fed the soul. He fed lyrics that gave the community identity and strength from whatever you, okay? And he was uniting the people. Because remember, he's made of black and white.
Yes.
You see what I'm trying to say? So it wasn't like he was on any one side.
Yeah.
He was a man speaking and singing truth.
Yeah.
And it was reflected in the music that he produced. And it became a worldwide phenomenon, yeah? Do we appreciate that the CIA of America, yeah, had a vested interest to make sure that revolution had to be stopped? Wow. And under people like Nixon, and it's all recorded, yeah, the largest CIA station outside of America is where? In the 70s, Jamaica. It became a major threat. That little island, please. That's also, we've got to look at the hidden hand.
Okay.
So whilst Bob Marley was teaching us about the beautiful lyrics, he was into idol food and whatever, okay? He was resurrecting a whole nation, okay? Around the world, the CIA said that he became one of the most dangerous men on planet Earth, Bob Marley, yeah? And CIA's recorded, okay, and their own officers, yes, later on under the Freedom of Information Act, admitted it, that they had to stop the revolution that we call reggae music. It was uplifting the people. And they literally sat down in laboratories, yeah, and created a new style of music that we call today dancehall. We think it all came from us.
Yeah.
No. They said we got to make sure that these people are invested in self-hatred. And let's reflect, and they said the thing about Jamaicans, they love their music.
Yeah.
Culture. Remember you talking about culture now.
Yes.
See, it wasn't that we just fluttered into it. No, directed by a hidden hand. And all of a sudden, a new style of music came up. And they said, yeah, we instituted that. And at the same time they instituted that, they instituted the guns into Jamaica.
Right.
They instituted crack. But at that time, it was just weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Which they're legalizing
which
now.
They're legalizing now. But then all of a sudden, we had the crack and the cocaine entering into Jamaica, which was foreign. All of a sudden now, people killing each other over political parties, Manly and Ciego and whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
that was foreign before.
Yeah.
And that was when the dollar, the Jamaican dollar, plummeted. Because at one stage it was one Jamaican dollar to the British pound. That's how strong the Jamaican economy was.
Wow.
You see? So I'm just trying to say, many times we say things like that.
Yeah.
I understand there's a hidden hand sometimes that literally engineers that literally self-hatred and the violent culture that we now think that's ours.
Right.
And it wasn't ours.
Right.
Anytime there's someone who comes to give us an alternative of peace, you find that person's moved aside.
Black Lives Matters.
Yes.
I just quickly wanted to touch on Black Lives Matters. So I've got a thing with Black Lives Matters. I went on a Black Lives Matters march and I was there. It's gone very quiet in the last, it felt like it was a hype thing.
Yes.
It felt like it was, you know, it was a fad.
A fad,
It kind of
yeah.
came in
Yeah.
and is simmering down. But one of the issues that I had with Black Lives Matters was they only seemed to flare up when it was white police officers killing black people, whether it was Sandra Bland, whether it was,
Yes.
you know, Tamir Rice, which is terrible, which you know,
Deserves a backlash, yeah.
absolutely deserves a backlash. But at the same time, we're always silent when it was
comes to-
the black kids that were killing other black kids.
Yes.
Now, if Black Lives Matters, which they do, shouldn't they matter across the board? And
yes.
shouldn't there be as much outrage from the community?
Yes.
Because what it feels like is when the black youths kill each other, we go, oh, that's really bad, man. And then when a white police officer kills,
my
we're like,
God.
oh, no, turn over one car, run it. Do you get what I'm trying to say to you?
Yes,
But I'm
yes.
feeling like, shouldn't that vitriol and anger, shouldn't that be just across the board?
Across the
Because
board.
at the end of the day, if your child dies, your child's
Simple.
dead.
Simple.
That's it.
Simple.
Whoever did it is by the by.
Yes.
What the person's colour was is
Yes.
by the by.
Yes.
We're supposed to be outraged, in a way, maybe more outraged.
More outraged that we're killing each other.
Aye.
Yes. And I totally agree.
Right.
Totally agree. I've got no ifs or buts about that.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm not going mad.
Yeah,
All right,
no,
good.
totally agree. And we should be just, and that's why, you know, as I say, working with people that you've mentioned in the past that's been on this great show, okay? If you check their back records, they're outraged at any time a black youth kills another black youth, or whether it's a policeman killing a black youth, it doesn't matter. Every life matters.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm trying to say? And to a large extent, we should be even more outraged that young people killing each other that look like themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, but we understand the historical, again, that historical legacy that has led to that. But I can understand another reason why maybe the general community gets even more upset when a black person, male or female, is killed by a police officer, is that they are in a paid office.
Right.
To be a public servant. They're getting paid.
Yeah.
Their duty is to look after
and
protect the very citizens that they were killing.
Yes.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's another level
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
So I can understand the outrage that another policeman may have thought is wise enough or brave enough, okay, to kill someone who's totally innocent. We see the videos ourselves 10 a day now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can understand the massive outrage because they're in a position whereby they should be protecting and serving those in the community, not killing them. They're actually paid and trained for that.
So, solutions. Let's
I love that now.
Solutions.
I love that. See, that's where I become alive. I come alive.
As an educator.
Yeah, as an educator, I deal with them because the solution is that we need a new type of education. The old system of education doesn't work.
Right.
Youth, whether it's black, white, Asian, Chinese, they're not inspired by whole old Victorian styles of teaching. Because if you go back to the old Victorian schools, you'll have the teacher with the blackboard, the chalk, one-dimensional learning.
Yeah.
Audio learning. We're living in an environment now at an age where our children need to be stimulated by their 5 senses. That same little Johnny that has ADHD or can't focus in class for more than 5 minutes, that same little Johnny can go home, be on his PlayStation, be on his Xbox 5 hours, and he ain't moving. You know what I'm trying to say? So hold on a minute. His focus seems to be intact for 5 hours there, but can't last 2 minutes here. You see what I'm trying to say? So sometimes it's so easy to blame the children. We need to look at the system where we teach. And I believe that the great man Stan Lee, was a great educator. People don't call him an educator, they think he's just a filmmaker. No, he was dealing with education. You know, on such levels, he was teaching some deep principles in a way whereby young people were attracted to. And whether that may be in the form of print, maybe that may be in the form of media, maybe that in the form of film, there's something there. And so what I find is that we need to reassess how we educate our young people and start that revolution. That revolution must start from within. And so we need a new type of school system. We need a new type of connecting with parents and whatever. They've got to buy into this system and you'll see a change. You'll see that change. That's only one aspect, because also, as I said before, there's employment, there's housing, there's equal opportunities at a lot of levels, you know what I'm saying? But in terms of education, I think we need to really just reassess the way we teach.
I mean, I completely agree, because I feel like especially for young black boys, which I was one not too long ago. Don't watch the grey hair, not too long ago. And I feel like because the curriculum is very Eurocentric. I never saw myself in that curriculum. As a matter of fact, I felt like the way that they presented Africa was jungle culture. Yeah, they had Egypt as high civilization.
But Egypt wasn't black though, according to their books.
Right, and then tried to make Egypt come across disconnected us from Africa. So, I mean, even in the British Museum, they've got, you know, Egypt and Africa.
Exactly, totally different places, areas,
You know, you think the last time I checked, Egypt was in Africa.
And that was my awakening. Could you ask the question at the beginning about how did I start doing the work that I'm doing today? And it connects with what I talk about the education which you're asking now, is that I was one of those young boys like yourself, many years ago that I failed education. You know, I failed all my exams in school. You know, and it wasn't until my older brother Michael, who's 6 years older than me, he gave me a book to read. Now, I never read books outside of school. Never read books outside of school. And there's only one day during Christmas period, I was mega so bored that, you know, songs of praise and whatever I had nothing to do. I had no money to go out. You know what I mean? And I picked up this little book. It wasn't the autobiography, because I wouldn't read a book that's thick. He's a very wise educator, my brother. And he left a very thin book called Black History by Malcolm X. And I opened it up and I saw Egypt being a granddaughter of African civilization, a granddaughter. It's one of our children. You know what I'm trying to say? And I thought, rubbish. Egypt's nowhere near Africa. It's in the Middle East. Now, I'm so stupid. Imagine 16 years of schooling, and I did not know that Egypt was anywhere. I thought it was this place called Middle East. I never looked at a map. And when I challenged Malcolm X in my little room, and I went to an atlas just to show how black people are lying to black people to make us feel good. And I opened that atlas and I saw Egypt, not near Africa. Bang, northeast Africa. That was when my light turned on. And I said, that's what I'm talking about, the re-education that you touched on. It needs to be a new way of teaching. And as when I saw that, Jason, the lights went on. And I thought, wow, look, after 16 years of education, I am so ignorant. I did not know the foundation of countries or where they were. And that was the best lesson of my life. And that took me on, that made me hungry, that made me thirsty for knowledge. I became hungry. You know what I'm trying to say? I became hungry. And I started to study, I started to learn. And first it was all about African history, black history. And whilst my friends wanted to rave now, I was happy staying at home, learning. I felt stimulated. And that stimulation passed from African history into academic work. So I went back to college now with a new identity. And God is my witness, Jason, they could not give me an exam that pass. I wanted to get A star distinction because now a new me was born. And I was taught something different about my history and my culture. And that was the greatest stimulation I had. And I went through college destroying all my exams. You see what I'm trying? And that was my awakening. And I know the same youth have that potential today.
They have the potential, but you know, I know we got to wrap up. They're telling me time. They're telling me time.
We can Jason.
I feel like we just started, but one of the. All right, so for me, I'm into education, and again, I feel like the education system. I'm back at uni now doing another degree, and I feel that. Thank you, my brother, and I feel that the way that they're teaching is so Eurocentric, in as much as, you know, when they sort of talk about it, when they touch on the you know, we're looking at the Renaissance, the English Renaissance, and they kind of say, you know, and you know, they had some misguided ideas about indigenous people. You know, it's just so apologetic, like, but moving on to the great stuff that they did, and kind of moving away from that. And so I think I was in a class with Robin, and we was talking about geography, and he was saying that, you know, some of the textbooks that come into our classrooms that are basically racist, because, you know, and he called it the African scene. And he said, you know, that you're in the geography class and they've got Africa, and, you know, there's the typical scene of village, everybody dotty, flies flying around. You get what I'm saying? The women are breasts exposed, sitting around, and then he said, you know, the kids are in there, and then someone says, turn to page 75, and everyone turns to page 75, and there's a big African man naked, standing with a spear, and then someone says, that's your dad, and the whole class starts laughing. And then he said, and the only defense the young black kids have got is, but I ain't African.
That's painful.
That's the defense against
painful.
It. And you see, when he said it,
Blue. But can I say it's got even worse than that now? I specialise in working in schools with young black boys doing leadership programs. And without naming the school was in South London. I was asked to do some work with a cohort of black boys, all black boys. And got there. Also, one of them I introduced myself, what I do, and how we're going to get on together, and the aims and objectives. I asked each one of the individual boys in my cohort, and there's about 20 boys, to give me their names. I went to the first boy, and as soon as I said, what's your name? The whole class burst out laughing. Wow. And the boy refused to give me his name. Wow. Yeah, several times. I said, but what's your name? The class is laughing. And then someone said, sir, his name is, for example, Ajibuwe or something like that. Yeah. He's Nigerian. Yeah. And they were laughing to such an extent where all black boys laughing at an African brother because he's got an African name. Whereby he felt so ashamed to even give me his name. Yeah. So forget about other people laughing at us now. Yeah, we're laughing. We have now been trained to laugh at each other. And I said to them, could you imagine if I had a Chinese class here? And I asked this young man to say, what's his name? And his name was Mr. Chin, or, you know, Simon Yao or whatever. Do you think that they would be laughing at each one of them that had a Chinese name? Facts. So it really, and this is 25 to 30 years after I've left school. Yeah. This is now happening in a black class amongst black boys. Yeah. It's a lot of re-education that needs to be done. A lot of re-education, man. And I don't know if the government, I don't think we can rely on the government. I don't think they care enough. That's why we need our self-help programs. I said the problem is in the community. The solution is in the community. Definitely. And very quickly, bro, that is why people like yourself, people like Terry Jervis and what have you, okay, people in the media world and in the filmmaking world, you have an onus too. Yeah. You are the new age educators. What you can do making one comic, one graphic novel, one film, it would take 1 million or 1,000 teachers to do and in 1,000 different classes. That 90-minute project can change. Look at the Black Panther. That has caused a revolution around the world. Facts. Now, when I go into schools, white children are chatting out Wakanda forever. You know what I'm trying to say? Based on one movie. Yeah. Can you imagine now if we had a whole range of new directors like Brother Leon and whatever, okay, producing and just churning out positive films and media and comics and graphic novels, whereby not just black children, white children, Asian children realise there's value in being African. Yes, you know what I mean? That we have something to offer the world. Absolutely. And it's cool. Yeah. It would take 1,000 different classes to do what you can do in 90 minutes. Yeah. I mean, listen, I believe, you know, we've got so much
we've got so much responsibility as content creators,
Yes.
and that's one of the things that I do. I'm mindful of that, you know. I'm mindful of that because I think it's Frantz Fanon when he talks about when Fanon talks about the comic books and the racism in comic books, and I just remember reading Asterix, and he uses Asterix the Gaul as the example.
I grew up on Asterix.
Now this is the thing. I grew up on
Wow.
Asterix,
And I didn't see it at the time.
So basically, I'm looking at Asterix, and all of the Africans are always presented big lips, bone through the nose,
extended.
that's right. Leopard skin boxer shorts, and carrying around white people on shields.
Yeah, and I never saw it.
I never saw. Not only did I not see it, I'm laughing at the Africans,
them.
not realizing I'm laughing at myself. And it was only reading Fanon.
Yes.
And again, it was, you know, I've got to give props to Robin. Robin introduced me to the Fanon.
Context,
and it, you know, when you, because I grew up on Asterix,
Yes.
it touched me. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to create my own graphic novel. And I feel like we're in the midst now, Brother Andrew, and I'm coming down, my director's looking at me, I'm coming. But of a Black British Renaissance. That's what I feel like we're in that place right now, where we've got creators, we've got people like yourself, like Robin, with the books that he's writing, brothers like Akala doing, like there's so much happening in the sports world and in the music world. And Mela Means doing great. There's great stuff happening. You know, and I do feel like what you say as content creators, we have definitely got a responsibility to be presenting Africa, to be presenting Black culture in a positive way, because we are trendsetters.
That's it.
That's the truth of the
Simple. And not just trendsetters, you are the new age educators.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? In the realm of world politics, you are the ones that literally direct the world.
I love that. Brother Andrew, I feel like I could sit here and just talk to you forever. Just quickly tell us some about what you do, your handles, how we can get in contact with you, how we can find out more about you, more, please.
Yes, as I say, my name's Andrew Mohammed, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D. Andrew Mohammed, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D. They call me the Investigator or Guan Papa G. Just tap that into your Google, you better find me. My Facebook page is Andrew Mohammed, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D. My Instagram is _investigator555. We didn't get into numerology today, but that's another time.
You're coming back, man.
Yeah. On Twitter, it's just The Investigator. And my website is theinvestigator.org.uk.
Love that.
Lick shot pon Babylon buck foot, rice and peas, buffalo soldier, dreadlock rasta to my man.
My God, my brother, thank you so much. We've definitely got to have you back on.
Love the show.
Andrew Mohammed.
Every time. Peace.
JBN Comics presents Heirloom. When an asteroid falls from outer space to Earth, a runaway slave finds the asteroid and is endowed with superhuman powers. He sets about on a mission to free his people and change the world. Unknown to him, the very asteroid that gave him his powers carries a dark secret that could destroy the world. Heirloom, the first hero.